Good evening. Welcome to the Joplin School Board meeting for February 24th, 2015. Okay, we have the roll call, please.
Ms. Van Wert?
Present.
Dr. Thorpe?
Present.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Here.
Mr. Landis?
Present.
Ms. Sharp?
Present.
Mr. Steele?
Here.
Mr. McGrew?
Present.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ms. Waldo, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties for all.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. We have Read Across America today. Is that Ms. Stokes? Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys? Good, I'm glad. So I've asked to be on the agenda tonight so I can kind of get an idea of what JNEA is sponsoring every year. It's Read Across America. It is an initiative from National NEA. And so I am the coordinator for the program. I have been co-coordinator or coordinator for the last 11 years. And my name is Crystal Stokes. I am the Joplin NEA president. And so we come to you and we know that the love of reading starts young. We know that. And so we like to spark that love early. So one of the initiatives goals is to get into elementary schools and allow not only our kids that are obviously in the elementary schools, we have our high schoolers come out and they dress up as the cat. I'm sure Annie's seen that enough times. I think my son's
Where
been
is
the
the
cat. He is not here. He's not feeling very well. So my cat is sick at home. But he's dressed up a few times. But we have a few cats going around Joplin schools. And we also have Thing 1 and Thing 2. But what we're doing is sparking that interest. And we ask for our board to spark that interest also. Go out to an elementary school. We have so many, Debbie knows. We always have Read Across America Night. We have Stop, Drop, and Read. We have all these events across Joplin. We also have the Reading Matters program with Bright Futures coming up. We have all these programs, but we definitely know that Joplin NEA has been very, very strong in keeping Read Across America not just the same old. We do different things every year. We do whiskers on the kids, so they're excited to get their books or their bookmarks. And so we just come to the board as JNEA and ask, can you take time for Dr. Seuss's birthday on March 2nd, and we spend the whole entire week, go out and talk to a building principal, ask if you can read books to kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. They love having people read to them. And that's what we come and ask for you to do for that week of March 2nd. And asking to maybe even bring books. They do not care if they're brand new or not. They care that you brought them a book and that you shared that love of reading. So I kind of leave on that. If you have any questions, I'm open to that.
And then each of the elementaries usually email us and say, hey, will you come over?
Correct. Yes. What we ask is we have special nights set aside so the cat will appear. I know that KSN was really strong at Stapleton, and I'm not sure if they still, I have not heard about this year, but in the past they have been, and the cat will show up. We do it during the day. Around lunchtime, the cat will come around, put whiskers on. So it's definitely become a tradition for the whiskers for the kid, because we have a high schooler 2 years ago when I was still there. He's like, can I be the cat? Because I got the whiskers put on me. And so they were excited to be the cat or to be Thing 1 or 2. So that really, really does spark that love of reading early. So like I said, we ask for you to go out and just take about an hour of your time, read to K through 5, really spark that love of reading. Yep. So thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate it.
So they send all of us a schedule and we can sign up.
In the past, they've just
They
come,
have in the past.
the
Yeah.
schools will email and say,
contact
hey,
us.
would you like to come and spend some time?
Okay.
So, And then earlier this evening, we had a demonstration from the Joplin High School archery team. They won their regionals the other day, so they are taking several people to state. A freshman, Gabrielle, shot a 293 out of a 300. So I would watch out for her. She has a pink bow, and she's also a hunter.
And she's ranked what?
She is ranked first in Missouri and second in the nation. Can't even drive. So, anyways, if you have a chance, they're going to be at North this weekend at 4 o'clock. They'll be at North Middle School for a competition, and then on Friday, and then on Saturday from noon to 4, they're having another little competition. So, anyways, I would highly encourage someone to attend those things, February 27th and February 28th. Dr. Huff, would you like to tell us about the long-range facility?
Sure. As this board knows, we had reinstituted the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee as we wrap up the construction projects we have underway. You'll recall, I think it was in 2000, I want to say late 2009, we put in place a long-range facilities planning team, and they started the process, and it's been about 13 months working on a long-range facilities plan that the board adopted in April of 2011, and it was kind of the next step in that process was going to be to put funding mechanisms together to put together a 15 to 20 year plan that we could implement over the course of that period of time. And as it turns out, tornado hit on May 22nd, 2011, and we utilized that plan to a large degree to help guide us in our recovery efforts or rebuild efforts. So having the plan in place was timely, and we completed a 15 to 20 year plan that we'd identified at that time in 3.5, 4 years, and we're back to a point now where it's time to start having some conversations again with our new current reality, which is we have some empty lots, we have some vacant buildings, and we have some buildings that still need to see a little bit of work. There's always maintenance and upkeep, so we broke the team down into 5 different areas. Probably won't be able to remember all of them, but it was lots, existing lots and buildings. So basically existing property, how to best utilize the existing properties we have. We had one specifically for the Joplin School Administration move, which the board approved, I believe it was last month or the month before, to move over to Memorial. So that was a plan that we implemented right away. We had a team that looked at a new construction. It was one of the teams that got together and worked on the facilities as a subcommittee. We had one for capital outlay, and there was one more that I'm forgetting right now, and I knew I would, but one that was to put together a capital outlay plan, and one other group that worked as well. And the end result is the draft version of a long-range facilities plan that's in front of you now. You'll notice that there's some dollar signs associated with a number of the projects. Obviously, those are all rough estimates, but one of the things that will happen next, once we get board approval, which we won't be seeking this evening, is putting together a funding plan to make these projects happen over a period of time. So it's really just to kind of get the conversation started, and been a lot of good dialogue amongst the committee. We've been very blessed. A number of committee members that are here this evening, but we had in excess of 30 people that attended religiously almost every time we got together. And all total, I'd say we had about 50 people that participated over the course of 4 or 5 months we worked on this plan. So the good news is we're in so much better shape than we were a few years ago when we did this work. Still have some work to do, and just a couple highlights. There are some conversations in terms of new construction. That's what gets people's attentions the most. The recommendation from the committee at this point in time, Columbia Elementary, West Central Elementary, getting to those buildings in that order. The Emerson site was also a topic of conversation as it relates to the growth we're experiencing at our elementary schools, especially in the disaster zone, and the possibility of maybe needing a new school there at some point in time, the not too distant future, and conversations around Dunawig and Duquesne, the possible surplus of the old Irving site, the possible surplus of the old South Middle School site, and so on. So tonight's just basically an introduction to the plan, to this board and to the community, opportunity for the board to ask any questions, any clarifying comments that need to be made, and I'll try to answer those questions the best degree I can. And if the board would like for us to investigate or look into some other issues that maybe you're aware of, we can always bring the Long Range Facility Planning Committee back together again between now and the March board meeting with the hopes of bringing a full plan to the board in March for approval. And then if get the board's blessing, then from that point, we'll move into developing a funding plan to support the long-range facilities plan that we'll bring back at a later date. So questions?
A question I have is I drove by Duquesne the other day, and it looked like the storm shelters are still sitting out there. Anyway, there were still some white boxes still sitting out there. Columbia, I'm concerned about because those are the only students that won't have storm shelters per se this spring when the weather comes. If those are storm shelters still sitting there, what's the chance that we could move those for those children?
Those storm shelters they were stick built. They were built in place. They weren't the modulars that were just brought in and plopped down. They were concrete structures that were actually built in place, so they can't be moved. So that would be the issue with those. As far as Columbia Elementary School is concerned, they do have a shelter-in-place location, safe places that they've identified within the building, and ultimately we want to get out of the ground with that safe room that's to and small walls going up there in the very near future. So got held up a little bit on timeline there, but we don't. We're not going to be able to bring those boxes out right now. Any other questions? And again, if there's anything that comes up between now and March, feel free to reach out to me if you think of anything or hear anything as this conversation happens in the community that you'd like for me to look into. And again, we can bring the facilities committee back together again on short order. And appreciate the work of the committee to this project, and I spent a lot of time together, and always enjoy that work because it gets people involved and gets a lot of different perspectives and opinions, a lot of different experiences to the table, and helps us put together a pretty actionable plan, I think, that results in a good recommendation. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, concerns, comments you'd like to make to me after this board meeting, feel free to send those my way.
So just to recap, did you say that those buildings without the security system, is that something they're trying to get in by next school year?
That's, let me take a look here. So not all of our buildings, one of the things we were able to do with our new construction, we're be able to create some secure entrances. Not all the buildings have been conducive to that, so Cecil Floyd Elementary is one of those that has that kind of foyer area out in front, and they're requesting a camera and a buzz-in system of some kind. So once we get the board's blessing, we can look into that and look at putting that in as part of cap outlay. And if it can't happen all in 1 year, certainly look at over a period of time, over a period of a few years. But we'll put costs associated with that, and we've done a few of those. I think even West Central, it was Emerson, I believe, used to have one in the old building. That they had a camera, I think it was a camera system, if I remember right. So it's just a matter of dollars and whether or not we can afford to do it at that time and the priority. And if we can do that, we certainly will. If we can do them all at once, great. Just bid it all out at once and get them done. But we'll take a look at that and bring a recommendation at some point.
And there still is some interest historically for Emerson. The people have got their historical, I don't know if you read in the paper, they got their Murfreesburg and all some of the historical sites. And there's a group in Jefferson City that still they do things with old school buildings.
Okay.
They came down and I think talked to Mr. Barr and back about a month ago, you guys were exchanging emails.
Very briefly, we touched on it,
Yes. So I spoke with someone today and they're still,
Okay.
that's still a possibility.
Okay.
So can you elaborate on that a little more, Annie? What does that mean?
There's a group out there that take old school buildings and turn them into something else.
So they use
And
tax
they-
credits to renovate old structures such as old schools, and typically they turn them into residential apartments or something like that.
Any
they-
thought of that happening for Washington?
So,
Well, we're not in the business of building apartments, so that would be open. It's just like anything that we would do, we'd have to surplus it, and if we were to surplus it and somebody was interested in buying it and doing something like that, making a project out of it, they can certainly do that. There's not money out there, unfortunately. There's money out there for residential, those types of projects, low-income housing, and so on. There's not. You just can't go out and get federal dollars to do renovation of an old school to turn it back into old school to a new school or a renovated school to be used by kids. So if we didn't hold on to the Emerson property and were to release that, put it up for surplus auction, somebody could potentially buy it, take advantage of those tax credits. And do that work on a facility like that, turn it into an apartment building.
and when they came to town, they didn't request to go see Washington.
They just asked
I
about Emerson.
told them our
Okay.
buildings we had,
Yeah.
and Emerson was the one that
That's
caught
what
their
I was
attention,
wondering.
Olivia Apartments in one of their place had
Yeah.
caught their attention.
There's been some interest in the Old South property. I get calls on that fairly regularly. Obviously, Old Irving property, there's some interest in that
Yeah.
because of location. And the Washington property, there's you know, it's in a location, you know, there's some development happening down there with the new ball field and,
Right.
and some potential there, you know, for either parking or apartments or something like that possibly at some point in time. But for us as a district, it'd be very, very costly to go in there and do a renovation of the old Washington building. And it was slated for demo in our first round of strategic planning back in 2011. So it's just, same recommendation came from this committee as well.
If there's any more questions for the long-range facility planning, elementary progress reports.
Okay.
Ms.
Jennifer, you want to
Dozier?
bring your team up here?
And look how they run up here.
This evening, we have our principals that are with our South Middle School feeder schools, and so they'll be presenting to you this evening. We will first start with Irving Elementary. Nyla Vance is the principal there. Don Mertens is our assistant principal at that school. Just to give you a little bit of background with regards to their school, as you hear the different data that's being presented, Irving does not have APR data from our MAP testing because you have to have 2 years of data, rolling data, in order to have the APR. Because they combined into a new school as one, with Emerson and Irving coming together, the state did not, we don't have that 2 years worth of data yet, so we will not see that information from her. So I just wanted to clarify why she would not have that information for you this evening, and while she will be looking at some data from her school, I just wanted to make sure you understood the reasoning why Irving would not have that information for you, and it's just because with the bringing of the two schools together, we don't have that at this time from the state. So with further ado, I'll send it over to them.
Thank you for letting us share. I thought I would start out by telling you what our WIG is, what our goal was, our building goal. Last year, our Irving leadership team talked about what they wanted to focus on, and they decided they wanted to focus on differentiated instruction in all academic settings. So their goal was to have 100% of their teachers, 100% of our teachers, implement differentiated instructional strategies in all the academic areas. So that was our goal this year. One way that we're doing it, there we go. One way that we're doing it is we're having our special education teachers work with our general education teachers. They meet together each week and they do lesson planning together. You know, our special ed teachers are a great resource and have a lot of knowledge on how to do interventions for kids that are struggling, not only for our special education students, but our students that are struggling that don't have IEPs. So our special education teachers are doing lesson planning with our classroom teachers. One benefit that our teachers have seen is they are doing a co-teaching strategy, which means our special education teachers are actually pushing into those classrooms and they're co-teaching lessons together. One of the benefits, and up on the screen are some things that some of the teachers have mentioned as positive things they've seen out of this particular thing that we're implementing. One of those is when we have a substitute teacher come in with a classroom teacher and they're absent, that special ed teacher is able to step up because she's been co-teaching with that gen ed teacher and really take over the lesson. Make sure that the communication is clear when the teacher comes back of what the kids were struggling with when the sub was in there, what things were easy for them. So we've really seen a benefit on the communication when our general education teachers are not in there.
The next slide that you'll see is writing progression tools that you'll see in our K-5 classrooms. And within them, this helps conversations as teachers are having them with students become self-regulated learners. So students know where they are, they know where they need to be, and then they set goals on how they're going to get there. The next slide is going to be a video. Within this, not only in writing are we focusing on success criteria and learning intentions, but we are with reading and math as well. And in this video, you'll see a teacher coaching another student as they're having a conversation about the student and reading and where they are.
So, where
where you are right now? 786. Where were you at the beginning of the year? I was at 63 years old. Where do you either need to be, or what's your goal? Where are you headed for May? I need to be at 940. Okay. All right, so this is where you are. This is where you need to be. And how do you know what you're going to do to get there? I know how I'm going to get there. I need to read everything. Yes, I need to read. Okay. Tell me about these and how can you get your numbers to show? Just need to put them So what were those numbers? What does the 63 stand for? That's the worst that you read. I read it, and this is what I need. Oh, okay. Tell me what you see from December before Christmas break to after. I got down because I only read once a week, not every.
So they can see what's happening just that quickly.
Yes.
You
Yes.
don't read every day.
Exactly, and she, data. That kind of goes into our next slide. We know that one important thing that we need to do is we need to track to see how successful we are with our kids being able to identify where they're at, where they're going, and the strategies they're using. This is Mr. Gardner. He is one of our 5th grade teachers, and he's going to tell you about our scoreboard and how we are tracking our data and how we are tracking our success on our WIG.
Here's our WIG scoreboard for our school, and this gives them how they apply to the questions that we've asked them. We're trying to go where are you at right now, and how you're going to get to where you need to be.
And how do we use this to guide what we're doing with students?
Well, I feel like it helps us to gauge the students' understanding, and then it helps us to, as teachers, to look at our instruction and tell where we may be lacking and where we may be able to improve, but it also tells us where we're doing a good job at.
And as you notice on our scoreboard in December, which you can't see the months, but December you'll see the white went way down in December. So when we came back for PD in January, we really discussed our scoreboard and, hey, why did we see this dip in our data? What do we need to do to improve? And as you'll notice, when it came to January's data, when we did our data pool, after that conversation and refocusing and really talking about what we needed to be doing better, we had a huge increase in January, which that was nice to see.
Self-directed learning allows for them, because the first few slides talked a lot about at grade level, but it allows them to move beyond at an individual rate.
When we're talking about learning intentions and success criteria, we're really asking our teachers to do the whole group lesson on grade level and focus on grade level, but then look at the individual student about where they're at, and then look at the success criteria above and below and see where you need to push them up and where you also have to differentiate to get down to those kiddos that are struggling.
This next slide is our kindergarten through 2nd grade and the data that we've had the last 2 years. As you know, last year we were in 2 separate buildings. This year is our first building all together as one. We do feel like kindergarten is the top left-hand slide. We looked at letter name fluency in the fall, and then letter sound fluency in the winter. And as a kindergarten teacher, you don't teach those in isolation, you teach those together. So we are seeing the growth there that we expect to see in kindergarten. 1st grade, you're going to see lots of data there. It's in the middle on the right-hand side. As a district, we do feel like that we were listened to, and we felt like there was a lot of assessing going on. So benchmark assessments in the fall was our phoneme segmentation, which is the blue bar, and then the winter, it was nonsense word, which is the red bar. But we truly felt like that wasn't enough data to be able to tell where each of our kids are. So our first grade team decided that we needed to implement some more structure to put in place to see exactly where all of our kids were. The DRA is probably the biggest growth that they saw. So in the fall, that purple bar, you can see that we were at like 25% proficiency, and then in the purple bar in our winter, we were at 55% proficiency.
What's DRA?
Yeah.
So that's the comprehension piece,
Okay.
where they can kind of see, they read a text, and they look to see where they are on level on text, and they measure the fluency and the comprehension in DRA. And the bottom left-hand corner is our second grade data, and you will see that the fall, we looked at our CBM, which is looking at fluency, and the DRA. The DRA, they chose to give that in the fall. We did not give that in the winter, but now looking back as a second grade team, that is something that we would like to implement, especially for next year. We didn't see the growth that we thought we would see in the RCBM and the DRA. As teachers, they are feeling like there's more growth, but we didn't give that since it wasn't a district benchmark assessment.
And just so you're aware, DRA does stand for Diagnostic Reading Assessment, just so I can clarify the actual terminology that goes with that, so.
This is our 3rd through 5th grade assessment. We give the Scholastic Reading Inventory, which is primarily on comprehension. As you can see, our 3rd grade scores, we made significant growth. We are actually above on proficiency compared to the end of last year. So we are above where we ended the year last year. Our 4th and 5th grade is making gains. We started out lower this year in both of those grade levels compared to last year's beginning of the year, but they are making significant growth in those also.
Nyla, are those 3rd graders that were 3rd grade in 13, and then 3rd graders that were third graders in 14? It's not like you followed a class, right?
No.
It's the 3rd grade.
No,
It's
3rd
the 4th.
grade and then 4th grade. And we started out a lot lower in 4th and 5th grade, but we had a lot of increase in enrollment. We have a lot of different kids this year than we had last year too, so.
This is our behavior data, and something that you'll see this year, 2014, 2015, we have about as many referrals right now as we did the whole year last year. With that said, as a behavior team, our PBIS team, we have a representative from every grade level and department, and we were able to really look at our level 1 and our level 2 behaviors and be consistent on what should be classroom managed and what should be office managed. So with that consistency, we did see more referrals going to the office. We had 204 referrals in January. Out of those referrals, we were really able to analyze the data and look at students who had 5 or more referrals and make sure that we were able to talk with parents, with students, and with kids to try to make sure that those behaviors start decreasing.
The next slide is our attendance data, and we looked at attendance in 2 ways. The top graph is our percentage of attendance, and we have stayed pretty consistent over the past 2 years. We hover around a 95% attendance rate. The bottom graph is our 90-90 report, which that's what the state is really looking at. 90% of our kids with 90% or above attendance, and we are right at 90, the same as last year. So that has stayed pretty consistent. The last slide is, we wanted to let you know we love to see your faces in our school. Please follow us on Facebook. We have a fabulous librarian that keeps up to date our Facebook account, and she puts all the activities that are going on in our school. If you're unable to be there, she also posts a lot of pictures of what is going on, so you can stay updated on things that are going on. And just come and look at our scoreboard, ask our teachers about it. It's right outside of the art room. And if you guys are interested in more videos, we were told we only had 7 minutes. So we actually have examples of the student assessments, them having goal conversations in each one of our K1, our 2-3, and our 4-5 wing, and we were only able to show one. So if you're interested to see how our lower kids are doing it, email me and I'll be happy to have Mary share that with you.
Are there only data binders in the few grades, or is that K-5?
We really left it up to
came to the superintendent's breakfast.
Yeah.
And was really wanting us to see her students' binders.
They, we let each grade level decide how they are collecting their data and sharing their data. So they all have data folders. Some of them look a little bit different depending on the grade level. We let each grade level decide how they wanted to organize it. A lot of the 4-5 is going to be more electronical data folders. K1 and 2 are primarily in paper form.
Thank you. Nicely done.
I'm going to turn it over to Julie Munn. She is the principal at Kelsey Norman Elementary, and so she's going to speak with you at this time.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to start, and I'm going to address my presentation based off the 3 questions they talked about a little bit, but that we use with our students and our teachers use them every day. Where are we now, where are we going, and how are we going to get there? So to take a look at where we are now, that's kind of hard to read.
Can we turn off that one?
Looking at our MSET 5 report, let me look at my, I can read them for you here. Maybe not.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I know what they are. So our ELA, we got all 16 points out of 16 points for 100%. We did the same in math. Our science was where we struggled, and we did not receive all those points. And then we did get all of our points for attendance. Currently this year, our attendance is at 94%. So we're proud of that, and on that 90-90 report that Nyla was just talking about. And I'll share here a little bit where we are in our reading at this time. So this year, our WIG, our goal that we looked at, we took the goal from the district level, and our first goal for the year to take us through February was using 100% of our teachers using data and evidence in all academic areas to guide students in self-assessment strategies, and we looked at writing at that point through this month, and so we did meet that goal. So then our teachers, a lot of them already expanded into other academic areas, but not all of them have. So our goal for the remainder of the year is to make sure we're doing that same thing using data and evidence in all of our academic areas. If you'll click, Eric, on that first scorecard, this is an example of how our teachers are, I can explain it, how our teachers are recording that is they do weekly writing conferences with their students. And so at the end of the month, we've asked that they record how their students are answering those three questions. And again, these were up until this month, so these are in writing. A 0 is meaning they didn't get that question, and a 1 meant they got it. So it was just a simple they got it or they didn't. And so we did that each month to record our data and find out where our students are. The other strategy that we use, the other link on that PowerPoint, is our teachers picked a monthly writing strategy. And with that monthly writing strategy, after they implemented that strategy, they met together and they worked on talking about that strategy, how it was used in the classroom, the effectiveness of it, the things they found out that worked well, the surprises they got, examples, things like that. And then they talked about the strategy that they will use for the following month. And so we're still doing that. This is also an accountability tool to make sure that we were all using those strategies. And then also we asked at that point if they needed any help with any of the strategies. So
Was that peer? Is that what you said? Peer
no,
evaluation?
this is for the teachers. Grade level teachers chose the strategy to teach to the students monthly. So the grade level teachers chose those. Okay. We also have our goals for our BSIP, and our goal for reading was that all grade levels would be at a 90% for proficient and advanced on DRA, 90% of our students. And so we started the year at 71, and with our data at just at Christmas that we analyzed, we were at 80%. So we're hoping to reach our 90, but we're working very hard. And things that we're doing to work with that is, collaboration weekly with our teachers. They meet on a weekly basis. We've identified all of those students that are reading below grade level, and so all of our staff is involved in reading with those students, from the cooks to the custodians to myself, the secretary nurse. Everybody's reading with those students and working on the area that they're struggling with. So we're working hard at that. Writing was the one that I just shared with you. Math, that 100% of our teachers will be fully implementing our math and vision program. Science, that we will be using the science glees. And PBIS, our goal was that 0% of our students were in Tier 3, which was 5 or more referrals. And so that was for our behavior. Then with our writing videos, these are some things that, or these are 2 videos that we have taken just to show you what our students are, how they're reflecting on their writing, how they're understanding their writing, and using that process. So here's the first grade one.
Tell me, what can you tell me you've been working on in writing?
About the characters in the story and the main thing and the setting, and then what is the problem, how to solve it.
Very good. Do you have a writing goal? What is it?
Check for spelling.
Check for spelling. And what are you doing to try to meet that goal?
I always circle my words that I think that's wrong.
Okay. Do you get to pick your goal?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. And does Miss...
And here's the 3rd grade one.
Okay, Miss Chloe. Can you tell me what you've been working on in writing?
Well, we work on personal narratives, and personal narratives is like you can write about anything that's happened to you, but it has to be true, but you also can add little fiction to it, but most of it needs to be true.
Okay. So can you give me an example of one that you wrote?
I've just written one about a trip I took to Ohio.
Did you visit a relative or something?
No, it was for my dad's work.
Oh, okay. Do you have a writing goal?
Yes, we actually do. We have a clip chart and it has your name on it. And my writing goal is to link paragraphs with transition.
So those are just some examples of some of the students reflecting on their work and talking about their writing goals. And then in the writing conferences that we've been working on, these are 2 short clips of 5th grade classrooms and how they're working with the kids and their conferencing.
So, according to this, we're going to focus on your conclusion, but you're not really sure what's up with the mechanic. What do you mean specifically on that? How would you know what to put in my space when that's going to be? So what's the difference between those two? Okay, so let's think about my conclusion or our conclusion that we wrote up there. What do you remember about that conclusion?
And then the second one is an example of during the conferencing, the teacher takes the student back to a board that she has, and on that board is an exemplar paper and pointing out the different pieces that they're looking for in the paper, and so that's what they're talking about here. that's the exemplar text that she's showing with the different parts identified. So that's a little bit of what we're doing. Same thing that Nyla said, we'd love for you to come out and show your support and come to the school and see the great things that we're doing.
Nicely done. I just see kind of a halo
I know.
over you. Whoa. So that's how you don't have to be on camera.
That's right. That's how
that
I'll remember that for next time.
Tell your friends.
Yeah.
Make them so they can't sit in the camera all the time. There you go.
Yeah, that will definitely
There you
trickle
go.
down the line in the
There you
future.
go. Good.
All right, and finally we have Karen Sechrist. She's our principal at Stapleton Elementary.
Yes, thank you for having us here tonight. I'm going to start in a little different way because last year was my first year at Stapleton, so I kind of want to go through the story, Stapleton's story, as you can see. So I want to back up a little bit. So last year when I came in, the main thing was to build relationships, but also it was to build a teacher leadership team that would support the goals at Stapleton and push things forward with the rest of the staff, but also be able to collaborate with everyone and really just take the mission forward. Another thing is we decided to bring in school-wide procedures for positive behavior, and by the way, Dawn was with me last year, so she kind of helped me with a lot of these things. And along with the SOAR team, which is a fifth graders that make up this SOAR team, and they are in charge of our service learning. And I think they attended the national conference today and were able to speak, and they did a really good job. But very proud that we have student leaders in our building leading out for service learning. Cool. Also, Stapleton was a little short on technology, and that's one thing that the teachers identified that they needed more, and so I was able to bring iPads and laptops in. They didn't have a computer lab, and so we started a computer lab, and then also we have the iPads on a cart. So they're using that within their instruction, and it's really worked out well. The kids are loving it. Another thing was data teams. One thing that they felt also that they had not been strong in is looking at their data. So we started hitting it running as quick as we could and looking at the data. And as you can see, this is our data from the end of last year. Sorry, you can't hear me? Okay. Some people are glad, I'm sure. But the English language arts, you can see 100%, math, 100%, science, 100%. Our subgroup achievement was 100% in English language arts, and then math was 75%, science 100%. And then attendance, we got all of our points, the APR at 98.6. With the math, we took that this year. We decided to focus on the math, and so we started doing the math club and math tutoring after school, and teachers putting interventions in for math. Of course, we used the SMI, but we didn't get the data that we really wanted from that because it wasn't working appropriately. So we're hoping that we'll see some improvement on our math this year, as opposed to the 75%. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Here's where we're at with our DRA. The fall we were 55. Right now we're at 81.5%. With the SRI we are at 69%, and that's just third, fourth, and fifth graders. The informative writing, when Sarah Mwangi was here, she explained to you the Lucy Calkins rubric, and it's very, very rigorous. So right now, in the winter, we're 34% on that. Our goal for the year was 56. We know we're going to make it, and so we're very pleased with that. And, you know, setting our goal for writing this year has really helped. The 90-90 attendance is 92% currently, and last year was around the same. Learning walks, that's where we're asking the students the 3 questions, as you've heard, the self-regulated questions. And 85% of the students were able to answer all 3 questions. And I keep that information in a survey that I have created. So if you ever want to see it, I can show you all the results of the teacher and the walkthroughs and all of that. So on this next slide, these in front of you have our wildly important goals, or WIGs. And so the first one being the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations on the informative on-demand writing rubric will increase 56% by May 2015. We are on target for that, and I think we're going to go past that, so we're very, very happy about it. Last year, we were not happy. I'll just be honest with you. We ended with 11%. We weren't happy. So we really have made progress, and we'll get into why that is in just a second. WIG 2, in order to create self-regulated learners, 100% of teachers will establish writing goals with their students by November 2014. Even though we had writers workshop the year before and before that, we really hadn't focused on consistently setting goals with kids, providing them feedback on the goals, and meeting with them weekly or bi-weekly on those goals to see where they were at. So we've already met this goal, and I'll show you the scoreboard in a minute, and we are continuing to monitor teachers having goal conferences every 2 weeks. This is our scoreboard. It is found in our teachers' lounge because that way they can also look at it every day. The top part of the board represents their writing conferences that they're having, and in the middle of the board you'll see the 56%, which was our goal. The purple star represents the 34% where we're at right now. So we're hoping that purple star will go way above the 56% by the end of the year. How will we get to our goals? And in front of you, you also have that under my lead measures. But creating those student goals. But along with that, we've got to provide the right feedback. So our teachers this year, they decided one thing that would help them with that is if we did a book study on feedback. So we did a 6-week book study on feedback, and the strategies they gained from that have really helped with their conferencing. When I've gone in to watch them conference, it's really helped them to not point out things in the conferencing that are things these kids already should know, but work, and provide them feedback that way, but provide the feedback on the things that they're learning and maybe didn't already know. So instead of saying, oh, I like the way that you put a capital letter there, a lot of them are moved past that, so that's really not good feedback for kids that already use capital letters, that kind of thing. Rubrics and checklists. The main thing also that has helped our writers is that they are working with a rubric, and all of our students have the rubric within their folders. They also know their current goal. So every 2 weeks, they know what their goal is. They meet with the teacher, and they know whether they're progressing on the goal or not. Peer editing, that's really helped. A lot of our kids are practicing some of this for the first time. So while the teacher's conferencing and the others may have finished their writing, they go right into peer editing with a peer before they meet with the teacher. So not only are they learning to converse with each other, but they're also learning from each other, which is what we want. It's part of our self-regulated learning. The learning intentions and success criteria are really helping our kids to be able to be independent writers, readers, and many other areas. Portfolios. Every teacher's keeping a portfolio on their students that show mastery, where they're at with that, whether kids have mastered, and when they meet with parents, they pull out the child's portfolio. In every area on the grade card, they can show them proof of where they've mastered that skill, which is very important to parents, especially with the way the grade cards have changed. Writing reflection logs. Our kids keep reflection logs, and in that log, they talk about questions they may have about their writing. They may have celebrations about their own writing. And it's really worked out well for our teachers to be able to look at those. Data teams, strong data teams. I have that as one of my strengths pretty soon, but we meet every 2 weeks in data teams with our writing. And teachers have chosen a different part of the rubric. And so 1 week every 2 weeks they might be focusing on lead, and they create an assessment on lead, and then they score that assessment, and we bring that data back to the table every 2 weeks. And that's one reason I think we've increased in our writing. Teacher clarity and professional development. Being able to help teachers understand the standards more so that they're able to explain also to the students exactly what that learning intention is. And visible learning strategies that we're working on right now with Bloomberg. This is an example of the learning intention in just one classroom. All of my teachers, and please come and visit, but all of my teachers have the standard written, and then they have the learning intention, and then they have the success criteria. So students can self-monitor themselves on how they're going to get there, and they don't have to always be asking the teacher. The teacher's laid out for them before, and they've talked about the learning, and they've talked about how they can be successful, and so they can monitor themselves, and they can also monitor as peers. I think you saw this in previous slides with the other principals, but this is an example of a wall in many of my classrooms where they're showing the focus in writing, they're showing the success criteria, and then they're showing exemplars in writing that students can make sure when they are writing, they can compare their papers to. And this is going to be a video on self-regulation where a student's going to explain his learning intentions, success criteria, how he's going to get there. Let's see if it'll work, Eric.
Hey Kirsten, I was wondering what you guys are learning today.
We are learning how to support a main idea in a story.
Okay. And how do you know you'll be successful?
Whenever you are able to find the detail in the text.
Okay. And then what are you gonna do to show the detail? What are you guys doing?
Usually whenever we're reading it in our Scholastic News, we will underline the sentence.
Okay. And so what are you doing today to show it?
Today we are typing on the computers in our class Padlet of a supporting detail.
Okay. Do you feel pretty confident that you're learning what main idea and details are?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The thing about kids, they're not afraid when you go up and ask them those things. They're like, okay, well, this is cool. Somebody wants to know what I'm learning today. This is great. So if you do come and visit us, please feel free to stop and ask them, what are you learning? Well, how do you know that you're doing a good job? What strategies do you use? Just visit with them. They enjoy that.
Karen, you mentioned the different grade card. How is that received? Is that going okay?
Well, it's going better. I've had to sit on quite a few conferences with teachers to kind of support them through the process because, I have parents that are still with the old grade card in 4th and 5th, and then I have their sibling in 3rd, and so they're trying to understand it. So after we explain that it's a better picture of their child's learning and able to show mastery and the proof from mastery, instead of saying, well, your child fell somewhere between here. No, he mastered it or he hasn't mastered it. He may be approaching mastery. After you sit down and have those conversations and you're able to explain that to them, they get it. It's not to say that they're real excited sometimes about it, but they understand it and then they're able to follow along and know kind of where their child's at. But you really do have to sit down, and the conferences take a little bit longer now.
Are you guys, any of the other guys on that?
Yeah.
All three? Mm-hmm. And are you at the same stage where your 4th and 5th graders are still in the old system?
Our whole building is doing it. We were one of the first ones in McKinley to pilot it with McKinley Kelsey Martin. And so, but with these learning intentions and success criteria that we're using now, that has helped define it so much better, and it's a much better picture of mastery. So
it really is.
And how'd that transition to the next, to South? That's my...
Well, I don't know, I'd have to ask them, but, eventually all of our schools will be, 4th grade will be next year, and then 5th grade the next.
Right now, we're just looking at elementary, and it was something where we have 3 schools who have competency-based grading K through 5. That's Kelsey, Norman, McKinley, and Royal Heights. And then all of our other elementaries went to K3 this year. Next year will be 4th grade, and next year with 5th grade. Obviously, as you move into middle school level, you are looking, they're going to be still working on those competencies and mastery, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the grading is going to change per se with that. And so just to be honest with you, that I would have to have Jason probably speak more to that just because he is in that realm. But I know that they're looking at that, and although they will be looking at competencies and mastery of those particular competencies and standards, that will be the expectation as far as when they're looking at where their students are, but that still will probably be being reported in a grade, so.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, for the 4th and 5th, or your building that already had some that transitioned on, if they were able to make that jump.
We haven't had any feedback of concerns with that, with those that have transitioned on
And they
to
do
the
look more
others,
for
so.
the skills and what they're understanding and not versus the grade for classes and things like that.
I think it's like anything when it's new.
Right.
You know, it just takes a little time, but once parents get used to it and they see the breakdown and they can see exactly where their child is on every skill, they're happy about that.
I think one of the things that we heard, probably the biggest thing I've heard from parents overall is that they have more information about where their children are now than they ever have before when they go to a parent-teacher conference, because of being able to truly look at where your student is with each one of these particular areas or standards. And so, whereas in the past we'd say, well, in reading they've got this, you know, and you do this quick overview. Now they truly have an understanding of where their child is in every single area. So that's the feedback that I've received from parents, is that I have more information now than I ever have about where my child is and how they're doing in school. And that's a great thing. That's what we want. We want parents to leave going, I know where my child's at. So I know through the transitions that we've had with Kelsey Norman, Julie could speak to this, you know, obviously change, as she said, change is always hard at times and difficult, and it is a process, and at first it was a process as we moved through that.
There's a lot more time on a teacher by far doing the report cards.
By far, the work that the teacher does
lot.
is definitely a lot more work, most definitely. But I think Julie would agree that now her parents know, I mean,
that's all
they've
they
been,
know.
that's all they know, and she doesn't have any parents who have concerns with that
A
at
lot
this
of
time,
detail.
so.
The
you know,
good thing
it's that
about the
process you
detail,
go
though, is that the teachers even know more about the breakdown of the skills and where they should be taught in approaching mastery. When should this child just be at approaching mastery? When should mastery take place? So our teachers have learned a lot just from the new grade card themselves, so it's been a good thing.
What kind of conferences do you have, like at the end of the year between when the students are getting ready to go from 4th to 5th? Your 4th and 5th graders kind of look at the group coming up in any of your schools to see, because not everybody will probably be on grade level, so they'll still be going to 5th grade, but they may not have their competencies in every area. So is there conversations going on when these kids go ahead and move up a grade?
Absolutely. That's why differentiation is so important when you're, as they talked about at the beginning, that's why you differentiate instruction, because first of all, you have students who have mastered, as you referred to, Linda, who have mastered their competencies or the standards, and you need to be able to push them higher and move them further and allow them to continue to excel and grow as a learner. No different than you have the student who may be struggling in an area who hasn't mastered every competency. We are working with them to get them to mastery in those up to that grade level and then moving forward. And so our goal is to meet the needs of every single student, no matter where they are. And I think that's another thing that's excellent about us looking at this through the lens of grading and through learning intentions and success criteria of the standards, is that we are able to meet the needs of students much better than we ever have before, because your teachers have more clarity about what they're doing and the standards they're teaching, and your students have more clarity about what it is and where they're going and how they're going to get there. So I think we're able to meet the needs of students rather than seeming like we teach to the middle group, and some people say, well, we only teach to the lower. I think we're meeting the needs of all students now, and that's what we're here for, is to make sure we're meeting every need no matter what level they're at.
Thank you. The strengths, 100% of Stapleton staff support and implement our school-wide procedures of PBIS, and also 100% of them reward students. So our cooks, our custodian, everyone, and I know Annie's been at our awards assembly before, but all of them are responsible for giving awards to students, let alone golden tickets. But for example, all of our staff give golden tickets out for positive behavior, but once a month, even our cooks give an award. They'll give the Golden Tray Award. So our cooks choose a class that they felt for a whole month has come through and used. They were polite, they followed the cafeteria procedures and things like that, and they're so excited, our cooks are, to be involved in you know, the behavior and celebrating kids. So in our custodians, we have the Golden Broom Award. We even have the Golden Plunger Award for cleanest bathrooms. I know. But at any rate, a reason I put this as a strength because, yes, your academics need to be strong, of course, but there's things that help you get there, and these are some of those things that you have to have in place. Celebrating kids. And then also, as I said before, the data teams. Every 2 weeks, we have conversations around their writing data. And they create assessments, they share research-based strategies they're using, and they determine new goals. Along with that, we also have RTI, school-wide RTI, every day. And we have it at a time where all of our specials can help, custodian, everybody can get on board working with kids in RTI. And we're moving flexible groups real quick. And one of the things the teachers mentioned this year is that's one of the best things that we've implemented, that everybody's doing it at the same time and that all these support people can come in and help. So it's really been a good thing. I just want to say that we choose SOAR Selfies. We celebrate kids in every grade level, 4 kids in every grade level monthly, and we take SOAR Selfies. And believe it or not, this was just something new this year that we came up with as a PBIS team. And the kids, they nearly live at this board. They love it. Right when you walk in our school, you'll see it. But, you know, just to see their picture up there, and parents, they're just thrilled that their child was recognized for good behavior, for being just a good citizen all the way around, no matter where they're at, that they're doing the right thing. So, that's something I guess that's just a brag statement. But our Bright Futures Site Council and SOAR team has been very strong. Our SOAR team, they lead out in our Site Council every month and share with them what we're doing with service learning and ask them to help any way that they can. And so everybody's on the same page, and it's just been the best thing ever. I love having kids as a part of our team. And you know, I think sometimes we don't get kids enough credit that they can lead out and really do all these things, but man, just give them a chance and they can take it a long way.
They did a great job that day, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate it, and they love doing it, so it's been great. What can you do to support us? Visit our classrooms. All these things that we've told you, and now you've heard every principal about self-regulated learners, come and see it for yourself, because we could have brought the best video ever and you'd never know. I mean, maybe nobody else can do it, but I know we wouldn't do that. But come and see it for yourself. We want you to say, you know, prove it to us. Understand that the new assessments that are coming, honestly, we aren't really sure even what they are going to look like. So just understand they're new to us, they're going to be challenging. We are trying to prepare our kids for the rigor that they'll be facing, but we'll get our first glance at it this year, and after that, I'll just tell you, whatever we need to do, we'll get there. We'll get there. That's what our teachers do best, is just tell us where we need to go, and we'll give 100%, and we'll get there. And tell the community, go out and tell the community about our celebrations that we've been sharing with you, because they don't get to hear enough of that, the good stuff. Okay. So you have in front of you where we're at now with the MSEP 5, and teachers are beginning to learn the Missouri Learning Standards. Teachers are sitting around the table looking at data, trying to create more rigorous assessments. How will we get there? If you'll look in the middle, we're talking all about the goals, the feedback, and teaching kids, what does a good learner look like? And I'll just tell you, a lot of our kids will tell you if I have zero voice in the hallway and things like that. So we're trying to get kids to learn that, you know, being a good learner, it's about asking questions, being curious, things like that. And then as you look at the last one, how will we know we're there? You can see the boy holding it up. He's a self-regulated learner, and he's very proud of himself. And I'll tell you what, one thing teachers have said that have taught for 20-some years, and I think a few of you have heard of one of my teachers in my building. She's taught forever, and she said, I just never knew as much about my kids as I do this year. because I'm talking to them, allowing them to tell about their learning and where they think they're at and able to have those conversations. Whereas before, I think sometimes we just assume, I'll tell them, they'll do it, and but they don't really gain as much knowledge about the child. So it's been a really good thing, and I'm glad that Dr. Huff has put that into our district goal. And making learning visible so that when you all come in, anybody comes in, it's visible what they're doing. You can ask the child, you can see the learning intention and the success criteria. So that's where we want to be, and I think we'll get there.
Nicely done. Do you have any questions any more questions for any of them at all?
Great job.
As you can see.
Good job, ladies.
We
Way
have
to
3
be
more
the last
outstanding
group
schools
in.
with principals who do a fantastic job, and I know they
Yes, we do.
have some of their people back there supporting them, their instructional coaches who work rigorously at their schools to help in the work that they're doing as well. So we appreciate them being here tonight as well. So thank you for letting us come and talk to you today.
Enjoy your science fair, Ms.
Good
Seekers.
job, ladies.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate that.
All right, we've done the superintendent report.
Okay.
It's ready for consent.
Public comments? Ms. Holder? All right, no public comments. Consent agenda, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Landis and Mr. Steele. Any questions about the consent agenda? Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. On our regular agenda, is there going to be policy today?
I can be.
Okay.
Policy CFB,
Or
evaluation
Mr.
of
Cravens is
principles.
here, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Cravens, if you want to come up. Policy CFB, evaluation of principles. I believe this is for second and final reading this evening, and you've seen this before. Mr. Cravens, anything you want to add? Any changes have been made?
Not any
since last
changes.
time?
It's just part of what the state has required for principal evaluations, and so they changed it, and it's all aligned to the state and meets the requirements from DESI. And it's the season, so.
Tis the season. May I have a motion to approve the policy CFB, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Landis and Ms. Van Wart. Any questions for Mr. Cravens? Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Approval of the bargaining unit, description and selection of election date.
Basically, what we're seeking from the board this evening is approval of the bargaining unit as defined in the action item. All full-time employees, or excuse me, all full-time teachers, counselors, librarians, and other full-time employees who are included on the district teacher salary schedule and who are required by the district to be certified, but excluding all district administrators, managers, supervisors, and all other district employees. And we've had the opportunity to sit down and visit with both teacher organizations to get clarity about what is that they're wanting and what the expectations are related to that. And they're all in agreement. This is the group that they'd like to be recognized as a part of the process that we're going through currently. I believe that upon approval, I want to say March 25th, if I remember correctly, is the, on item C, recommends approval of the bargaining unit and selection of March 25th, 2015 as the date for the first election to determine type of representation, whether it be exclusive representation by one association, shared representation, or none, which none would mean basically stay the course with the practices we have currently in place. So the recommendation is as it stands in item C, and happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions from Ms. Buck?
In the Globe, I think Monday, maybe it talked about we're hiring an attorney that specializes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
And the cost is
one of the
shared?
things that we wanted to do to keep the process simple, and we hired a third-party attorney that's basically guiding the process, because there is a process and there's we want to make sure we do it correctly. The cost associated with the attorney that's doing that work is split between ourselves and both the teacher organizations equally. So we'll share in the cost of the election and the attorney that will be guiding that process.
And is that something we have to approve for that attorney to be hired, or that's already a done deal?
That's something we've already negotiated with both organizations, and they're in favor of the individual that we've hired as a third party to oversee the work, and supportive of that recommendation. So we all came to consensus on that one.
Did you make a motion?
We just need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Landis, Mr. Still, any more questions for
Do you have any
Walker?
idea what that'll cost?
I can't remember the total cost now that you mention it. We did, I apologize, I don't know. I'll find out and get back with you, Jim. I can't remember what that was. We did have a number, but it's been a couple weeks. So. Paul, do you recall?
No.
Okay.
Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Budget adjustment, Mr. Barr?
Yes, President Sharp, we have budget adjustments to present this evening to the board. They cover the type of budgets that where grants and information comes to us after the spring budget development is complete for the beginning of our budget year, July 1, including Title I, statewide initiative grants, Franklin Tech, various grants. Franklin Tech also received some mental health grants, United Way. We had some additional spending to do for furniture and equipment for revenues, insurance proceeds that we had received in the prior year, and we need to expend those funds this year as we moved into high school. Various sponsorships, advertising, activity fund adjustments. We had the August 2014 lease purchase agreement to bring to the books. Also the budget adjustment for rebuilding funding and expenditure to adjust to the total, as well as the budget adjustment to increase transportation budget. We've had some shortfalls this past year that we needed to shore up, as well as a need for some additional band uniforms. The budget adjustments listed result in the funding balance is listed in the fiscal note B. The administration recommends the board approve budget adjustments as recommended above and listed by fund on the attached schedule of budget adjustments.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Landis and Mr. Still, any questions for Mr. Barr on budget adjustments?
Yeah, I don't think we had this information prior to coming tonight, did we? I don't remember seeing this.
It was
Yes.
sent out. It was sent out yesterday afternoon.
Okay, so I have a question on some of them. Some of these, Paul, are saying we had some money given to us, correctly, like number 4. We
Yes.
got some grants, so that's money coming into us, and then some of these are saying money going out, is that right?
Right. This covers both revenues and expenditures, yes.
Okay, so I had a question about number 8.
Okay.
Can you explain that one?
Yes, we have activity funds throughout the district, and we typically, the revenues that we collect match the expenditures, and those funds do, because the schools are not required to expend every dollar what they collect every year. Those do carry over year to year, so we're just adjusting the budget to reflect the activity of the schooals.
Okay, that's not saying we're equalizing the budgets, we're just...
We're reflecting the revenues and expenditures that are taking place out in the schools.
Okay.
Adjusting the budget to reflect that activity, yes.
And then would you explain number 6?
Number 6 is regarding sponsorships and advertising budgets. We can account for $10,850 in revenues due to sponsorships and advertising, and we're building an expenditure budget to equal that anticipated revenue amount.
Okay, so that's money coming in, but there wasn't a specific account established to deposit that into, so we're establishing a line item for that?
Yes, but
Okay.
that's a pretty new operation with the district, so
Okay.
we're just kind of getting our feet on the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Barr, Request for proposal, lease purchase?
Yes, you may recall that last summer we discussed the need. We have funds coming in from different funding agencies, FEMA, SEMA, the U.S. Department of Commerce, and those grants and obligations and expected revenues all require us, which is very typical of those kind of monies, to pay our bills up front 100% out of our available balances and revenues that we have coming in before we receive these dollars. Once we make those payments for the rebuild project, the construction that's gone on in the district, we then prepare what's called a request for reimbursement for these agencies in the order and the manner they want those prepared, submit those requests for reimbursement to the agencies, and they take perhaps 2 to 3 to 4 months to turn those around. They have questions for us about what we've sent them perhaps, and we answer those questions. So there's a back and forth effort there, but we do have been getting reimbursed and are either 75% from FEMA or all of our Safe Room monies have been coming in on a regular basis now, and CDBG grants. So we do that to collect the revenues that are in the rebuild budget to help us build our buildings. But it does require us, as we mentioned last summer, to expend 100% first, submit requests for reimbursement, and then weeks and months later those requests come in. To do that, as we did last August, and I'm referring to last August because this is a continuance of that same effort, we have had to finance the ability to do that because we don't have the balances and the funds available to be, we did for quite a bit of the project up until last summer, and then the last part of the project is where we reach out for outside financing like we did last August. So this is merely a continuance of that effort. We've had a good financing. The current agreement currently with U.S. Bank has served us well. We have expended those funds, and we're at a point now as we adjust our cash flows, what we expect to come in and where we're at with our contractors to go out and obtain another financing lease purchase in the same way. What we would recommend is that we pay down or to zero the existing agreement because, again, we've expended all those dollars. That was $37 million from last August, and also address a $14 million remaining need we have to pay contractors. Because, again, we've expended all the first set of financing of $37 million. So, but we do have $30.4 million in revenue that we expect to come in to more than cover the total financing being proposed here of $28.35 million. So again, this is a continuance of last summer. It's brought us six months out and done, and it's served the district well. I did put a table A in there to reference all the dollar amounts regarding the project, what's been collected and what's to be collected, and what's gone toward the current financing in Table A. Table B, I prepared for a recap of this RFP request for proposal that went out to 10 banks, and the results we got back from that. We got a very aggressive interest rate, which we're recommending this evening to take advantage of. And then we did some comparison to the last August financing, again with the aggressive interest rate we got, plus not having to finance the $14 million that we need to finance now to pay contractors. By not financing that back in August, we've saved interest we avoided paying for 6 months, and the total interest with this financing compared to what we would have had is $167,000 in interest expense savings after issuance costs, the cost of the attorney, financial advisor, some small amount of title fees. We're still ahead with this proposed financing of over $54,000. So with approval, as the board considers this, with approval, it would allow the district administration to engage financial advisor George K. Baum and bond counsel Gilmore and Bell, two of the professionals that worked with us on the original financing last August. They're both offered discounted rates. They're both very familiar with this whole project. There is no learning curve. And it just, we think they are the professional team to work on this transaction with us, which will complete our financing of the entire rebuild project. This will complete it, this financing, if you would adopt this. And this is not an adoption of financing tonight. I'm giving you a lot of detail about selecting and accepting. What I'm bringing to you tonight is a recommendation to accept the proposal of Bank of America, who competed for this lease purchase financing. That's what we're putting out tonight, with a lot of detail starting from last August and before to bring us to this point. So I know there's a lot of numbers in here and a lot of detail, but it's telling the story because the two do connect. And this adoption of this action item this evening would put us in the best position to close with a new lease finance transaction by the end of March. And again, it's dual purpose. It's to pay off the balance of the U.S. bank financing and address the immediate need in March for the beginnings of the $14 million remaining and final parts of the cash flow that remain to pay contractors as they finish our projects. We have an established budget for this, established with the August action that'll still serve us with this action in the fiscal note 1. And again, we expect to receive more than what this financing represents, $30.4 million in grants, obligations, and expected revenues from those various agencies, FEMA, SEMA, EDA, CDBG. With that, then, administration would recommend that the board accept a short-term lease purchase financing proposal of Bank of America and engage professional services as described to complete and close the transaction.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Landis and Mr. Steele, is it on the table B, is our percentage rate less than 1%? It says .171.
You have to add those two together.
Well,
Oh, table B. It's yeah, you add those two together and it comes up just below 1.01. Yes, when you
yeah,
add those
that's
two,
what I
it's a
thought.
base rate plus a
That's a nice interest rate.
right. Well, just as a
1.09.
1 point, right, yeah, 1.09. The, that comes in compared to last fall, we had a 1.43 total. So, you know, the market, I think everybody knows that you can't get, I mean, the market is down, the cost to borrow money is down, you know, earning money in the bank is down. It's just a depressed economy in terms of that, which helps us in this regard.
Paul, on table A, under remaining balance, $30,400,000.
Right.
How much of that have we submitted for? Have we submitted to FEMA and all these agencies? Have we submitted all of that? Have we asked for all that yet?
We have, let's see, we're getting ready to, beginning to on the EDA grant, so nothing yet on that. I'm working at the bottom going up. SEMA requires us to submit, let's see, at closeout, and we'll be submitting all of our documents here. We're going to start with the East Campus here in about 10 days or so. Actually, we've submitted the SEMA documents. They don't pay until closeout, so SEMA has all their payments. FEMA and SEMA, again, the federal obligations of, I believe I think we have some more to submit at the high school because we're not finished paying there, but we're pretty well caught up on that one. And the 404 safe rooms, I believe, except for the Columbia and West Central, is that the last two safe rooms we're bringing online? I believe we submitted most of the 404 safe rooms. So, so some has not been submitted, but a lot of those dollars have been submitted, but they're in that 2 to 4 month, working process to go back and forth. And then there's also a chunk of the FEMA line item up there, the $31 million. There's an $8.3 million chunk that we've been directed by SEMA to submit at closeout for each site that represents what we've been generically calling it errors and omissions, but where we think there's some shortfalls in the FEMA projections that have been worked up for 2 or 3 years, and those will be submitted as we begin the closeout process. That's how we've been directed.
So the 8.3 million, will that submit to FEMA and SEMA, or just SEMA?
Well, SEMA partners with FEMA, and they both ask us to submit everything through SEMA. They work their part of it. Then
About
they
a year and a half after the storm, FEMA basically exited from the district and turned over operations to SEMA. So all the work we do now is with SEMA, and FEMA and SEMA work cooperatively to get the funds to us.
What's the delay from once they're submitted, usually?
It depends on what you're looking at. I think it's about just a few weeks, isn't it, on the project worksheets? Anything that's been submitted to a couple months at the worst.
Turnaround time. It's more. It's a 2 to 4 months. I'm referencing
Is it 2 to 4?
tonight.
Okay.
We had high school. I'm not sure which campus it was, but we had a $7 million submittal in January that we just got paid a couple weeks ago, $2.9 million on, as an example. So.
Then on the errors and omissions side, that's a completely different process we have to go through, and that you could be looking anywhere from 4 to 6 months on, or longer potentially on some of those reimbursements. So, we've still got some time here that we're going to be wading through some of these issues that were all unknowns when we started these projects way back in when we broke ground in 2012. Put the bond issue on the ballot in early 2012. There were a lot of unknowns that were still laying out there at that time. Even insurance, I believe, insurance proceeds and what we might be expecting at that time was an unknown. So, we've done, in my view, very, very well. And one of the celebrations in this we haven't talked about, you'll remember back in August, the $8 million loan that we were talking about in conjunction with this $37 million that we borrowed back in August that we may have to issue, and we haven't had to issue that $8 million loan. Which I think, in my view, and in talking to some local bankers, we're expecting that to happen. They're like, how'd you pull that off? Well, I credit Paul and the finance department, the hard work he's put in, and his team's put in with working with FEMA and SEMA to make that possible and keeping that cash flow moving in the right direction.
Well, I'd add that early on the board hired Whit O'Brien to help us with act as our liaison with the federal government, state government. It does sound a little bit odd that you have to have an expert help you with all these grants, but that's where grant writers come from, and people that speak the language, and their services have been invaluable to help guide us to stay within the regulations, procedurally stay on task, and they've known since day one that it's been their charge to help us garner aggressively, assertively, all the funding we can for these projects.
And I think it's also important for this board and community to know too is this project budget's grown, and it's no secret it's grown since our original budget projections back in early after the storm, as we were trying to put together a plan for the rebuild effort. And when we came to the board, I want to say in December of 2011, we had a board meeting where we talked about the rebuild of the schools, and we talked about what we were going to do. I remember we had a healthy debate about East Middle School, and was it going to be K-8, was it going to be separate buildings, and those kind of conversations, and trying to get our kids back into permanent facilities as quickly as possible. And I believe at that time, I just made a couple bullet points here. We hadn't settled our insurance claim yet. We had projections on what we thought it might be. We didn't know at what level FEMA would be participating in a rebuild project. We thought we knew what it might be based on the advice we were getting. We didn't know the impact of the disaster would have on labor and material costs here locally, and what that might look like. We didn't know what it would take to remediate the properties post-disaster. So when I say property, I'm talking dirt. Typically when you have let's say a fire burns down a school, it doesn't impact all the property around it to the degree that it did, and you don't insure dirt. And so the FEMA participation in that was something that was important. It impacted our ball fields, it impacted tennis courts, it impacted lights on the ball fields, it impacted ADA was impacted because we have to bring everything up to codes and standards, and we had $1 million in blanket coverage for the entire district. And typically, again, you'd expect maybe to lose one building. You would never think of a worst case scenario like what we experienced. And we had $1 million in coverage for ADA and codes and standards upgrades that we applied very strategically that generated some additional support from FEMA to make upgrades to the other facilities. But we didn't know what the dollar figure was going to be for that. We didn't know to what degree there would be errors and omissions on the FEMA side of things as they were putting together project worksheets quickly so that they get us the dollars we needed to start the projects. There were just, my point is there were a lot of unknowns, and there are fewer unknowns now than there were back then, but there's still some unknowns. And so I think the important thing for this board to know and the community to know is that project budget has increased. There has been revenue following that. And so the revenue has come with it. And as it comes down, just like that, it doesn't matter if you're building a house or building $220 million worth of schools, at the end of the project, it starts getting tighter and tighter as you get to the end of it. And Paul's been doing a great job of tracking those numbers and making sure we're on track. And it's been the nail biter at times because we like the security of the concrete, but there's been a little bit of abstract in all this as well as we've gone through it. So thank you again for your work, and just wanted to clarify that for the board and the community too. It's been a process, and proud of where we are at this point in the rebuild projects from a budget standpoint, and we're coming down the wire here, and I'll be glad when we have this behind us.
Well, when you think about the the bond issue back in 12, and then the community and the teachers and that the group designing, the group input into the design process took place. I mean, truly, this project has been owned by the community since day one and influenced by educators on all of our sites. And as Dr. Huff said, we made our best effort to garner as much funds as we could early, and also along the way, every opportunity. So, and this is what brings us to this. He did mention that the $8 million 20-year lease purchase financing we were speaking of last summer has been put in the background, and that's where it'll stay because we've grown our ask at closeout of FEMA of $8.3 million. Should anything of these revenues not come in unexpectedly, of course, we would bring that from the sideline, or part of that back out as a funding mechanism if it needed to be a stopgap for anything should develop. So it's good to have that off to the side, not looking at it today, but there for us should we need it as we finish out this project.
I'm just curious, on the errors and omissions, does the project have to be completely done before you start looking at errors and omissions, or can you find those and then request those during the project?
Good question.
Typically, I don't
At the end, 90,
Well, we've learned, we spent a lot of, in 13, I guess, and early 14, developing those costs at all three sites. The board had authorized to hire an architect.
Yeah, he's working on it. I didn't know when you submitted it.
Well,
when you're
we first submitted it June 30, and we're told that there's a different process than what we were thinking at the time.
Oh, okay.
And they then have directed us to submit it at closeout, which is now.
Okay.
I mean, past June 30 is when we submitted all of it originally.
Okay.
And we were informed that there's a different process to go through, and here we are.
So Paul,
Different who?
we discussed it,
right.
I understand most of this, I think, so thank you, but in this 84 million, or 54 million, those are monies that are obligated to us. But within that 54 is that 8.3 million that you're referring
Yes,
to.
right.
And that's how much we're hoping to get back in errors and omissions.
Right.
But we're submitting more than that, aren't we, in errors and omissions?
Yes, we
Didn't
are.
we talk about 40 or 45 million at one point? That was identified?
Right, we're going to submit over and above what this project takes into account.
But from what we submit, we hope to get the 8.3. If we get
Right.
the 8.3, we don't need to use the $8 million loan
Correct.
that we
Right.
had previously
Right.
approved.
And it's in that 31 million.
And it's in here.
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're going to submit more than that, but we don't have a need or a place or an encumbrance for anything more than 8.3, so.
And I thank you too, because this was difficult for me to understand, so I appreciate you filled in all the questions. But this also covers, just to clarify, this covers the West Central Safe Room?
Yes.
And the Columbia Safe Room
Yes.
as well?
All safe rooms.
Okay.
Okay, so here's a question that I have related to what CJ was just talking about. in our conversations, if I'm understanding correctly, we knew back in August when we approved the 37, we were going to need additional monies down the road. We didn't want to borrow those monies at that point because we didn't want to pay unnecessary interest, correct? Because if we waited 6 months,
had we
that's
borrowed-
6 months worth of
right, had we
interest
borrowed,
we
it
wouldn't
would've
have to pay.
waited for this day, and we would have been paying interest the whole time.
Right. And so CJ said there are still some unknowns. I guess my question is linked to what Linda just asked. So Columbia is included, West Central is included. Do we anticipate any overages from the performing arts? Because that's basically what's left to be finished, correct?
Yes.
Should we anticipate anything above and beyond what's already budgeted for that? In other words, are we going to be back here again talking about borrowing more money once that project is complete? Or are we close enough to completion of that project that we shouldn't have to be borrowing anymore?
You know, and Debbie, that's a really good question, a good point, and I think that one of the things is, as we go through the final process of finishing out that Performing Arts Center, as well as other pieces of that facility, I mean, we still have some grounds work to do there, and some other items that need to be cleaned up, and so there's always more work to be done. You know, we have the lots on the back side of that building that need to be cleaned up at some point if we've got the cap outlay money to do that. So within this budget, I know Paul's probably built a little bit of contingency in there that we hopefully we don't have to tap into. But the reality of it is that we still have a lot of contractors out there that are we're still doing a lot of work on that Performing Arts Center, and they're wrapping that up, and bills are still coming in. And I expect bills probably will be coming in on that project for the next 3 to 6 months likely. As we close that out. And so to answer that question, I don't anticipate, all the surprises, I think, are behind us. We're not dealing with mine shafts anymore and big ticket items. The questions that we'll have is as we get final bills from our contractors and any unforeseen costs that they haven't disclosed to us at this point. But I'm not aware of anything else above and beyond what we've shared with the board at this point. It doesn't mean that there's not, but at this point, that's where we are. But I don't anticipate to be in the millions at this point. We're coming down the end roads here, and hopefully we'll get past this soon. And again, if we run into issues, we'll let the board know. And appreciate again Paul's work on keeping tabs on all this, because it's not been easy. It's not been your typical straightforward project budget worksheet like we worked off in years past on bond issues and such. It's been a lot more challenging.
Well, Mike Johnson, kudos to Mike and his team of the construction managers, as well as Susan Smith and Jason and his team, and bought the, which is not in here, this is building, but I mean, the buildings have to have furniture. I mean, it's been a group leadership council effort since day one of this event, so it's brought us to this point, and when you think about, the additional cash bills we have to pay, $14 million, 1% of that is $140,000. So that's, I agree with Dr. Huff's assessment, not aware of any, but we've had some unknowns in this project in the last 3 years, and but certainly don't know of any today as we speak.
No different than any other project.
And Paul, I also wanted to point out, because we had this conversation too about whether or not to bid out this process as, to get the best rate, as opposed to going with Bricker, Baum, Caldwell, and them again.
On the professional services.
And would you share the discussion about why we wouldn't bid this process out?
Well, I wouldn't advise it. I mean, it's not that it's driven by not having a statute, but there is no statute requiring it, number one. But more importantly, as far as what's the best for the taxpayers and best result for our financing, these are, we know these are top-notch services. We do go out, we have gone out, I think as recently as 2007, and several times in my career we've gone out and asked for investment banker, financial advisory services to compete. We have we do plan in the future to keep reviewing that process and keep doing that. The tornado kind of lengthened this last process out on us, but we'll probably shorten that time frame down from 7 years. But since we're basically, as I mentioned, we're continuing what we did last August, and we've addressed a large part of the funding need then, but when you analyze the numbers with the bid in front of us now, it's more advantageous to go out again, and we're covering all the costs plus some surplus, to have the same professional team who've both given us quotes. The attorney quoted his fee at 50% less, with a caveat that he might charge $10,000 more if the bank's attorney, if there's a lot of interagency work there. That's normal. He has to cover. He doesn't know how much he's going to have to spend there, but financial advisor discounted his fee also. So having the continuity, the expertise, the history, it just seems like this is the time to go same with this team. And then when we get past this project, certainly, again, review our practices and see where we can, how we proceed from there. It's worthwhile.
The last concern that I have about this is in the current loan, we're required to pay 100% of the funds that we get toward that loan.
Right.
In the Bank of America proposal, they're saying that along the way, we can submit only 75%.
Not only, a minimum.
A minimum of 75%. I don't want us to just submit 75%. I want us to put every penny toward it. Is there any reason we can't put every penny toward it?
No, there's no reason we can't. And if you want to save every dollar of interest, you would put every dollar toward it. The only reason you would not is referencing what Dr. Huff was talking about earlier in contingencies and things that may come up whereby you might find a need, some unknown need today may manifest in 6 or 7 months, whereby that would be good to have that. So as far as the phraseology here, I included what the Bank of America bid reflected, that we can do, as long as we meet, if we adopt this, meet their minimum, we can pay 100%, 95%, see how it goes. We could maybe pay 75% in these first weeks and months as we get a lot of these contractors paid, and as we pay them, the risk goes down, and we could start paying 100%, and what we hold back in reserve. By the way, if we held back some, it's not going to go to other places in the budget or out the door. It's going to be held back and stay back.
Capital outlay.
Right. So you could just hold it to a point, say in 4 or 6 months. We get through most of the payments. We're down to retainage. Everybody, there's absolutely nothing on the horizon, and say release it. You've got some of that 25% held back. Release it. So it's the board's discretion totally. I just mimicked what the Bank of America bid replied.
I just want to make sure June 1st comes 16 and this loan is due to be paid off, that it's paid off.
Exactly. I'm fully committed to that.
The other one's unrealistic. You have a house loan and you take 100% of your paycheck to your house loan is really unrealistic. And that's what the first loan was. This actually gives us an option to hold on to it and just sit there with it and then pay it off. And that's what our intentions are going to be. But like I said, the other one, paying 100% of your proceeds, is pretty difficult.
This is a friendlier term. Like I said, we were pleased with the bid compared to what we have. It's got friendlier terms, and the interest rates, significantly less.
Okay. Please vote.
You've done a lot of work.
Yes.
Good job.
Yes.
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 Thank you for explaining it to me, too.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I appreciate your patience, and that we did have a Finance Committee meeting a couple Fridays ago. That kind of helped me see what I needed to bring to the board in terms of detail and tie it back to last August, because, again, this is just a continuum. So I appreciate the Finance Committee's work and leadership in this regard.
Accounts payable, Mr. Barker?
Yes, we have accounts payable, some bills to pay this evening for payment of materials, equipment, services, salaries, and benefits in both instructional and support areas. Administration recommends the board approve payment of bills in the amount of $5,210,844.29.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Kimbrough and second by Mr. Landis. Any questions for Mr. Barr on the accounts payable? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, chairs.
Under the discussion items, I just want to recap that Read Across America will be going on March 2nd. Hat and his friends will be making stops at all our elementaries across the district. So please feel free to jump right up and volunteer your reading services. That would be awesome. We have a Franklin Technology Center dedication on Thursday at 9 o'clock. We also get to go to the Golden Apple reception at 6 o'clock on Thursday evening, the 26th. And that is a reception where our students have nominated teachers to receive the Golden Apple Award that's put on by the Joplin Chamber of Commerce. It's really a neat deal. The teachers are there with their students. So it's a fun evening. The archery team, again, they won regionals. The number one girl on the team is first in Missouri and second in the nation as a freshman.
And we have another girl ranked 7th in the nation.
Seventh in the nation, so they should be doing good. Katie Stauffer made her way to the podium in swimming. I think she beat out her sister, Allie, in some of the swim records. So congratulations to Katie Stauffer and the swim. Our swim team always does very well for us, both boys and girls. They do an excellent job. As you heard from our last set of elementary principals, visible learning is on the horizon. We're going to be hearing those terms, I think, from now until eternity. Self-regulating, we're trying to reach all of our kids all across the district. It's just an awesome deal. So please get in our buildings and ask our students all about what they're doing. Our principals have invited us each month to do that. And the Long Range Committee, thank you very much for your time and service for long-term planning. And thank you for coming to the Joplin Schools Board of Education meeting. Please watch Jet 14 each and every day, 24/7. And visit the Joplin Schools website.
Annie, I wanted to invite everyone to come to Missouri Southern on Friday at 2. Judge Jimmy Edwards from St. Louis is going to be present. The speech he's giving is implicit bias and at-risk students. Basically, he's a judge in St. Louis, a juvenile judge, and he kept seeing the same students come through his courtroom, and they didn't have much hope for a future. So he got St. Louis Public Schools to donate a building to him and started a school for them called Innovative Academy. And seeing great results. His students are going to college, they're getting scholarships, and so it's going to be a really dynamic time. And I think we could all learn a lot about how to work with our at-risk students. So everyone is welcome, 2 p.m. in Webster Hall.
And also the Joplin High School Junior Senior Prom, we've got our tickets for that. And the Franklin Technology Center had their career fair showcase. And what is neat about that is the show choir was serenading them the whole time we were having the career fair, because they're still in the Franklin Technology building, anxiously awaiting the Performing Arts Center coming to us soon. So thanks again for tuning into your Joplin Schools Board of Education meeting. Please feel free to visit all the schools in our district.